She's not what you'd expect. She's tough and feisty, but gentle and tender. She makes millions and gives millions to the poor. She cries, she laughs, she teaches, she comforts. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, I'm Dani Johnson. Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. Thanks for joining us today. Hey, listen, do you believe that the only way you can become financially independent is if you make $1 million? So I guess the question is what would you do if you did have $1 million? How would you spend it? How would you live your life? In fact, if money was no object, what would you do with your life? And if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do with your life? How would you live your life? What would you do with your life? What kind of a purpose would you live by? What kind of things would you do? Is there places that you would live? Would you change the neighborhood that you're in? Would you change the car that you drive? Would you change what you actually do physically all day, every day, and with whom you do it with? These are questions that I got asked many, many years ago. You know, I was a homeless woman at the age of 21 who was not only broke financially, but I was broke emotionally. I was suicidal. I was mentally tormented 24/7. First time I tried to commit suicide, I was 6 years old, so suicidal thoughts was not a new thing. But this time it was a real fight to actually stay alive. As my mind was being pounded by all the financial failures that I made, all the relationship failures that I had, like what? The man that abused me my entire life until I was 16 years old when I moved out of the house because I got tired of being physically abused, verbally abused, sexually abused. You know, so I had all kinds of issues inside my head of who I thought I wasn't and what I would never become, thinking that I would always be a failure because that's what my stepfather had told me that I was going to be, that I was fat, ugly, stupid. I would never do anything right. The best hope I ever had was marrying somebody who had money if I ever wanted to have any bit of a good life. Things like that, you know, so not to mention all the rejection that I suffered even through school and the high school sweetheart who was embarrassed of me, who told me that if anyone knew that he and I were together, then he would break up with me. Walking through the halls, seeing him, but pretending like we didn't even know each other. That kind of rejection can be incredibly painful. Being told you're dumb, being pointed out all the time, every time you make a mistake, where the mistake is like leaving a drop of milk on the counter or like dropping something accidentally or not getting the kind of grades that my stepfather thought I was supposed to have. So when I first entered the workforce, friend, I got to tell you, I came with all kinds of confidence issues, all kinds of low self-esteem issues, and really believed that I would never, ever, ever succeed at anything. Biggest dream was to have 3 kids and marry a guy that didn't beat me or my children. That was my biggest hope in life. And so I don't know if you are in that place right now where you think that money is going to be the answer to everything. And that money, that if you had $1 million, everything in your life would be able to change. I want to show you that that could be true, and in some cases, it could actually not be true. And really, what is the truth about so-called millionaires? Now listen, my first year of starting a business from the trunk of my car in a payphone booth after being homeless, I made $250,000 on a part-time basis. By the end of my second year, I had made my first million. This happened on a part-time basis by the time I was 23 years old. Now, for me to say that everything was awesome right after that would be a complete lie. It wasn't. In fact, I got embezzled right after I made my first million. And why? I was stupid, man. I didn't know how to protect the assets in which I had built. I had just full-on blind trust without any kind of verifying, no accountability for the people that I was working with. And so, yeah. And I spent a lot of money on trying to buy people's acceptance. That's what I did with my first million. I invested into another business, and I also tried to buy a lot of acceptance from people, whether it was living in the house I was living in, wearing the clothes I was wearing, or buying a whole lot of very expensive gifts like cruises for people and $1,200 dinners for people and sending them on different types of trips or putting them up in a, 5-star like Waldorf Astoria hotel in New York City. These were like dumb things that I did with money because I didn't know how to manage it. But I promise you that the last 18 years, my husband Hans and I have managed to figure out how to create wealth instead of just making money and spending it all. So we asked this question of our audience, like, what would you do if you had $1 million? How would you handle it? What would you do with it? What in your life would actually change? So we've got Bill from Kansas on the line that would like to share with us his idea of what he would do if he had $1 million. Hi, Bill. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi. So what would you do if you had $1 million?
I think my wife and I would basically just go and do missions around the world, quit all the work that we do right now and make ministry a full-time job for us.
Okay, so tell me more about that. So what's the work that you guys are doing now?
We're involved with orphanages in Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
We just this last May we got involved with a ministry out of south of Tijuana
Mm-hmm.
that rescues young girls from sex trafficking.
That's so awesome.
We're involved with a lot of ministries down in Tijuana,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been traveling since 2012, going all over the world to the darkest, dirtiest places, to the dumps of Tijuana, to the dumps of Brazil, and just preaching the gospel to different people. And if we had the freedom of that type of finances, I think that we would just walk away from everything and make that our full-time mission in life.
What is your full-time job now?
My wife and I pastor a small church in Pineville, Missouri, and I also run a construction business for residential homes out of Anderson, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And so those two keep us pretty busy.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? I have to tell you, I really admire the fact that you are a true biblical pastor, that you are working for your own bread, and that you are not living off of the ministry, if you will, but you are actually providing for the ministry, and you are also pastoring men on the job in the construction field. I have so much respect for you for doing that. That's exactly what Paul did, where Paul had said that he worked, he toiled, he labored while he preached the gospel. He bought his own bread. He prayed for his own bread. He didn't create a profession called ministry, which I respect, like tremendously. I respect what it is that you're doing with being a pastor in your day job. That's incredible purpose, teaching men how to be men, teaching them how to work, being able to sow good words and good encouragement and wisdom into your staff, as well as every Sunday or whatever night it is that you have that you're pastoring now a flock outside of the workplace, which again is like, that's how ministry was done biblically. But the thing that I am hearing you say, that you would not do that. You wouldn't pastor those people anymore. You wouldn't train up these leaders of heads of households anymore, but you would actually go and spend your time overseas instead.
Yes, I take some flack for that, but the reality is until you've walked in some of the places that I've walked in, there's no equation of or equality of what we deal with here and what we deal with. Even the resources here to help you better yourself, grow, mature, is nothing compared to what some of the places I've been. And so my heart, I think that for example, we say things in the United States, it just takes common sense because we assume that common sense is something we're born with, but it's absolutely not true. It is something we are taught as we're growing up. And so we go to places where what we would see as common sense, people just, it doesn't register the same. And so my heart would be that, that if we could go there, put some time there, and train and teach, it would make a big difference.
Yeah. Okay, so then,
going.
Bill, let me ask you this. Rather than abandoning a business here, again, I don't know if you understand the importance even of what you're doing here. That your ministry, your full-time ministry is your construction work, where you're, again, training up the next generation of men, having the opportunity to speak into their lives, to be fathers, teaching common sense to them, because you said it's not something we are born with. Common sense is no longer common, sadly. But hear me out. So if you've got a construction business, and you want to spend more time on the mission field with these children. And by the way, I've been to the places you've been. Absolutely have been to the places you've been. To Haiti, built an entire village for 2,000 people in Haiti. In Tijuana, we take care of 5,000 orphans every single month in Tijuana. We are helping thousands. In fact, we've helped almost 4,000 kids get out of the sex trade. So I understand exactly what you're saying, right? We just finished 1,000 homes for the extreme poor in Nicaragua. I know exactly what you're talking about. I spend 3 to 4 times a year in those places that Americans would call filthy, with the kids that are filled with lice, with the kids that are naked because they have no clothing, with the kids that are living in the city dump site. I get it. And my heart is wrecked, and I continue to go to these places because my heart needs to be wrecked, and it gives me more passion to come back here and be a voice for those people. And I've used my business as a way to fund all of those things. Trust me, I've thought about it many times. Like, what if I just close down my business and I just go full time into doing those things? And then I come up with the reality of, then there's no money. There's no money
Right.
to fund these
Right.
things. And that they need that. They need that for their education. They need that for shelter and clothing and all that stuff. But I'm going to challenge you, Bill, in this. What if you learn some new skills in your business to where you can raise up leadership in your company that actually could build it better, bigger, more profitable than you, so that you can have the freedom to go more often and for longer periods of time? I know this is possible because that's what I've done. I've spent months at a time. In fact, I've spent years away from my business where I put in 5 hours a month. And that was on average, like, meaning there were a couple months where I never even showed up, and literally through a couple of emails here and there, just check it on tabs, people just giving me a couple updates. There is a way, Bill, and it's shown in our Bibles, where Moses and his father-in-law had an intense conversation. It's what I call a Jethro slap, where Jethro just went, dude, you can't keep managing this all by yourself. You need to raise up other leaders to carry the load. So what if, Bill, you began to raise up other people with an entrepreneurial mindset? You began to train up leadership in your business. You began to train up other people even how to bid jobs even better than you, even better salespeople than you, even better workers than you, so that you can have more freedom, grow that company. Right now, the economy is so strong. You should be able to grow that construction business and be able to then take you and your wife and spend more time, as well as with your church. Raise up another leader inside of your church that can handle and manage what's going on every single Sunday, so you can be gone for 2 months at a time, 3 months at a time, or however many months at a time that you want to be gone. It is possible to still maintain the influence and the encouragement, the training and development, as well as building a multi-million-dollar business right here in the States that is funding you and your wife and going and doing the things that you want to do. So it's something to consider, and it is biblical. It's absolutely biblical, and the Bible shows us exactly how to be able to do that thing. So don't yearn for wanting to go on the mission field. Make it happen. That if you want more time there, then what skills do I have to learn to make it happen? Because something tells me that you don't want to just send out support letters and have people, you don't want to beg for money to have people support you while you're on the mission field. And if your business is making more money, that means more power you can do in the sex trade. That's more power you can do for the orphan, for the extreme poor that you have a heart for. So thanks so much for sharing with me that dream and that goal. And I hope that I kind of gave you a little bit of an idea of what you can do right here, right now, to prosper right where you are planted, to grow that thing. Making $1 million is not a hard thing, especially in construction. Making $10 million is not a hard thing, especially in construction. So I'm pretty confident from the God that you serve, the heart that you have, He wants to bless you. He wants you to flourish in your business. He wants you to grow because He knows what you're going to do with the money. You're not like your competitor who wants to grow a big giant construction company for what? For his own personal wealth, for his own stuff, for his own materialism, for more consumerism, maybe for a porn addiction, maybe for prostitutes. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you really have to understand you are your Father's son. You've been given this gift of construction and leadership. Now it's time to rise up and learn some new skills so that you can raise other people up so that the money can come in your direction. And as it does, God wants to bless you with that because He knows what you're going to do with it. He knows you're going to be wise. He knows you're going to take it to the poor. He knows you're going to free sex slaves from the sex trade. He knows you're going to feed the orphan. He knows you're going to put in wells in places where the water is killing people so that they can have clean water supply. So because He knows that, He wants to bless you with it. So the only thing standing in your way is skill set. Skill set in the development of other people. Skill set in the development of that business, of marketing, of sales, so that you can grow that thing. So thanks so much for calling in and sharing that with us. Hey, this is Dani Johnson. I don't know if you're identifying with this or not, but friend, listen to me. We can just sometimes fall ourselves into a rut. We can have a dream that's way out here and see the big giant gap between the amount of money it takes to make it happen and where I have money right now, right? There's a giant gap, like, oh gosh, if I had $1 million, this is what I would do. Then figure out how to get the million. Figure it out, because there is a way, and it really just boils down to skill. And if this chick, who was a former homeless cocktail waitress, who barely made it through high school. I don't even want to tell you how I made it through high school. I actually dropped out and went back and finished the last 2 months, my last 4 classes. You can only imagine what I did those last 2 months with those 4 classes. I'll just say that I lived with the person who had the key, the answer key to all of my whatevers. Anyway, bottom line is if you want to succeed, do not shrink back from the dream, especially when it's a dream like what Bill has. You got to push forward, and you've got to learn the skills. The Bible is very clear what it says. It says skill brings success. That's Ecclesiastes 10:10. Skill brings success. It also says that King David ruled Israel, and how he even got promoted to be king is that he led with the integrity of his heart and the skillfulness of his hands. So often, those who are believers in the Bible, for some unknown reason, are some of the most faithless people that I know, especially when it comes to work, when it comes to money, when it comes to building a business or building influence. They expect it to just fall out of the sky somehow. It's like, it's just not working. It's just not working. Then there's something you got to learn. Skill brings success. There's a skill that you don't have. It's time to learn a new skill. And by the way, Bill, I don't know if you have this or not, but this is First Steps to Wealth. This is step by step, chapter by chapter. I'm in the middle of reading the book myself right now. Chapter by chapter, skill set by skill set, on how I went from homeless to millions, and now taking millions and giving it to the poor. And so you can learn how to do that right now. If you go to DaniJohnson.com, again, that's DaniJohnson.com, and get a hold of this immediately. Okay, it's free. If you want to download it straight off of our website, it's right on the homepage. And or if you want a physical copy that you want to dog ear, highlight, write notes in the margin, if you're like me, then go ahead and call the office, 866-760-8255. Again, that's 866-760-8255. 866-760-8255. Call right now and get your copy of First Steps to Wealth. Pay the shipping to get it to your house. I will pay the $15 book to get it to your house, okay? So it's a win-win situation. Do you hear me? It's actually more of a win on your part. I'm going to be out $15. You're going to be out shipping and handling to your house. You can handle it, friend. So get your copy today. Start reading it. Then start plugging into what it is that we have available. We have so many people in the construction field. In fact, like Stuart Lynn, who now has made millions of dollars. This is a guy who couldn't even pay for his children, okay? He had 8 children, and he could not afford to feed them consistently on a weekly basis without having mom and dad subsidize his income. Come on. Could you imagine how humiliating that is? Today, the man has made millions of dollars. Yes, he was an employee as an engineer, working in an engineering firm, went and started his own engineering firm, now has a construction company, has a laundromat, has a metal building business. Give me a break. The guy, yes, keeping his 8 children and his wife first, has managed to make a tremendous amount of money from what? Learning new skills, developing his skill set in leadership, developing his communication skills, developing his financial skills, developing his marketing and sales skills, developing his whole staff, utilizing the training and material that is at DaniJohnson.com. The guy's been coming to our training seminars for 8 years. 10 years. It was 2008 when he started plugging in. He's still coming, still bringing his staff, still advancing his training and development. Why? Because he's got a heart for what? The poor, just like Bill. And Stuart grew up in the church, just like Bill. And the difference between Stuart and Bill at this point is that Stu has skill that he has developed. Where? First Steps to Success, 3-day training seminar. Coming up here soon, First Steps to Success in August. He invested in himself. And if you do the same thing, you're going to have the same kind of skill development, and you're going to be able to live out that dream the way you want to live it. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this. So, do you have something inside of you that you want to do? And do you feel like money is the thing that is stopping you? We asked a question of our audience. if you had $1 million, what would you do? Like, do you think that having $1 million is the answer to all of your financial problems? And if you did have $1 million, how would you live out your life? What would change? What would be different? So we've asked this question, and we've got Emmanuel. Love that name. And Emmanuel's from the Philippines. $1 million, Emmanuel, is a lot of money in the Philippines, like a ton more than it is here in the United States. Emmanuel, thank you so much for calling in. Welcome to the show. I can't hear him. Emmanuel, are you there? Nope. Okay, I want to see if Emmanuel might have muted himself. Nope. Can't hear him. Okay, so Emmanuel, let me try this. Hello, are you there? Nope. For some reason, his line is not opening. Okay, so if you are that person that you feel like you are, that if you had $1 million, that your whole life would change. I would agree with you. There are some things in your life would change, but there's also some things that wouldn't. Let me read this to you. It's really quite interesting. There's been some interesting studies. So according to a recent survey by Charles Schwab, Americans believe that it takes an average of $1.1 million to be financially comfortable. I don't know who these people are. And I want to know, like, how much are you making now? And what kind of comfort do you think that you're actually going to get? Well, check this out. This is really funny. An article by Business Insider quotes a stay-at-home mom with a household income of $2 million and $2 million, household income of $2 million and assets of $8 million, who says that she doesn't feel rich compared to others. So then this, and check this out. This is what she sees the others. They have private planes, they have drivers, they have all of these things. You know, money makes everything easier. It makes it easier for you to do much more, actually. And you know, we don't have that kind of luxury in that way. Want to slap her. Okay. Wow. So you're not comfortable because you don't have a private plane? You're not comfortable because you don't have a driver? Wow. And you don't see yourself as like wealthy because you don't have a plane? Listen, wealth is relative. And here's where you have to come to like reality. What is wealth to you? So would a private plane like make you happier? Here's the facts. Majority of the millionaires around the world do not live how most people think they live. Many of them live a very frugal life. And why? Well, I can tell you the first million I made, I went crazy. Okay, I went crazy. You know, I flew first class. I took a limousine to the airport. And then on the way home from the airport, I would take a limousine through McDonald's. Yeah. Can you believe that? Isn't that nuts? But that's what you do when you're 22 and stupid. That's what you do when you're 23 and stupid, right? That's what you do when you have been totally duped by the media that has sold you that a limousine and first class and, you know, very expensive clothing and lots of jewelry and lots of pampering, that is what success looks like. And I bought right into all of that and ended up broke the very next year after I made my first million. Somehow I thought, and I carried this poverty mentality that I thought money was going to last forever. I thought it was going to be around forever. And I thought that when you make it, you're supposed to buy. Well, I found myself in a prison. I did. So much pressure to live that way. So much pressure. And I found myself to be a spoiled, rotten brat and never, ever satisfied. So look at this. This woman who has $2 million in income annually as a stay-at-home mom and $8 million in assets is whining because she doesn't have a private plane. Is whining because she doesn't feel as successful as those other people. This is called, by the way, the definition of greed that I had. I was in this same exact place where no matter how much I made, I never felt like I had enough until I got delivered from that disgusting thing called greed. So I want you to do a heart check on yourself right now, because if you're making more money than you did in the past, or even if you're making more money now than you did when you first entered the workplace, and you are less satisfied today, and you are less fulfilled today. But there's still this thing and you're going, more, more, more. More is never ending. It never stops. It's like the grave. It's greedy. It's never satisfied. Yeah, the grave is never satisfied. The grave is always yearning for more dead bodies. And so is greed, always yearning for more dead things that never bring satisfaction. We hope that you enjoyed today. God bless you. Thanks so much for joining us. Hope that you'll tune in tomorrow. Bye.